DOJ custody through the U.S. Marshals.
Thank you. The time of the gentlelady has expired. Ms. Demings.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Whitaker, I spent 27 years in law enforcement. I served as the chief of police. I took an oath just like you did, and I took that oath very, very seriously to uphold the Constitution and to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I hope you took the oath that you took very, very seriously. But today, as I've sat through, and my colleagues right, this has been painful because I believe that you have worked to make our criminal justice system, to make a mockery out of it. And it's painful for me for you to do that, and anybody up to and including the President of the United States. But let me ask you this, and it's really been painful for someone who has been given so much responsibility, representing the men and women who have dedicated their lives to public service. That really means a lot to me. I hope it means a lot to you. Mr. Lieu asked you if you ever prove it. Mr. Lieu asked you if you ever communicated with President Trump about investigations in the Southern District of New York. Instead of answering, you referred him back to your statement, referred him back to what was written for you. But all you said is that you didn't make any, or statement that you didn't make any promises or commitments to President Trump. I want to know whether you talked to President Trump at all about the Southern District of New York's case involving Michael Cohen.
Congresswoman, as I've mentioned several times today, I am not going to discuss my private conversations with the President of the United States.
So yes or no, did you?
No matter what the question is.
Yes or no, did you discuss with the President Trump anything about Michael Cohen?
Congresswoman, as I have expressed several times today, I am not.
Did you ever have any conversations with the President about firing or reassigning any personnel, U.S. attorneys or others who work with the Southern District of New York? With the President or anybody at all? Did you ever have any conversations with anybody about reassigning or firing any personnel, including U.S. attorneys with the Southern District of New York?
Congresswoman, I sit on top of the Department of Justice, as you mentioned.
Did you ever have any conversations about anybody who works with the District of Virginia firing or reassigning? With anybody, not just the President, anybody at all?
Congresswoman, I am not going to talk.
Okay, so let's talk about the great 115,000 men and women who work for the Department of Justice, because I agree that they, is your words, extremely talented, highly principled public servants who are dedicated to upholding our great Constitution and the laws of the United States. I'm sure you're familiar with this because you keep up. At a rally last fall, the President said, look what's being exposed at the Department of Justice and the FBI. You have some real bad ones. You see what's happening at the FBI. They're all gone. They're all gone, but there is a lingering stench, and we're going to get rid of that too. Do you agree with the President's characterization of the Department of Justice and the FBI? As the Attorney General, please tell me why you would agree or why you would not agree with that statement.
Congresswoman, since I've become the acting Attorney General, I have reestablished a positive relationship between the Department of Justice and the White House.
Before you established that positive relationship, what was your opinion of the 115,000 men and women who dedicate their life to public service? Before you had your current position, what was your opinion of them?
I have actually a very high estimation of the men and women at the Department of Justice. They are the most exceptional, hardworking people that I have ever.
So you disagree with the President's characterization because they don't deserve it, Mr. Whitaker, and you are here. You supervise, you manage them. Then you don't agree with the President's characterization of them. Is that correct?
Listen, before, Congresswoman, in all due respect, I feel very strongly that as the acting Attorney General of the United States, that I have to set the tone for the entire Department of Justice. And what is so important.
If I worked for you, Mr. Whitaker, and you thought I was highly principled and very talented, and that was your answer when I was asked, or you're asked about how do you view the people who work for you, that's your answer, that's pretty pitiful. Let me ask you this. You've only mentioned drugs coming through the southern border. the problem at the southern border as characterized by you and the president. Could you please paint a picture of drugs flowing through our ports of entry? Because I'm told the overwhelming number or percentage of drugs that flow into our country come through the ports of entry. Do you agree or disagree with that statement? And if so, yes or no, why not?
The time of the gentlelady has expired. The witness may answer the question.
Congresswoman, we actually both agree. The ports of entry at our southern border are most trafficked with drugs and illegality. It also comes in between ports.
Overwhelming of drugs come through the ports of entry. Do
On
you
our southern border, yes.
agree or disagree with that?
I believe that a tremendous amount of drugs come through our ports of entry on the southern border, yes.